Good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 251. As always, give people a chance to join the stream. I'm going to start us off with a tune.
Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed. Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need. To wait in heavy harness on flooded folk and wall. Your new gods sullen peoples have devil and have child. Take up the white man's burden, in patience to abide, to veil the threat of terror and check the show of pride. By open speech and simple, 100 times made plain, to seek another's profit and work another's gain. Take up the white man's burden, the savage wars of peace. Fill full the mouth of famine and bid the sickness cease. And when your goal is nearest, the end for others sought, what's love that heed and folly, bring all your hopes to naught. Take up the white man's burden, no tawdry rule of kings, but toil of serf and sweeper, the tale of common things. The ports ye shall not enter, the roads ye shall not tread. Go make them with your living and mark them with your dead. Take up the white man's burden and reap his old reward. The blame of those ye better, the hate of those ye guard. The cry of those ye humor are slowly towards the light. Why brought ye us from bondage, our loved Egyptian night? Take up the white man's burden, ye dare not stoop to less, nor call too loud on freedom to cloak your weariness. By all ye cry or whisper, by all ye leave or do, the silent, sullen people shall wail gods and you. Take up the white man's burden, have done with childish days, the lightly profit laurel, the easy young grudge praise. Come thou to search your manhood through all of thankless years. No age with give or wisdom, the judgment of your peers. Take off the white man's burden through all of thankless years.
And that was, of course, the excellent Chris Gard. If you like good music, go and check out Chris Gard's YouTube channel. He's got some really good music on there. Quite a lot of modern stuff as well as traditional stuff like our theme. Good evening, Mitch. How are you going, mate?
Same old.
I do believe Arman's going to be joining us shortly. He's getting himself a drink. Speak of the devil. Good evening, Arman. How are you going, mate?
Good, you?
Yeah, not too bad. So I suppose we've got a few things to talk about this week. We've obviously got Rupert Lowe appearing with Tucker Carlson. I suppose we should talk about that a bit. We've got people still going on about Nigel Farage's comments as a schoolboy, which I find most interesting, and which I think he should just own and say, So, and did you want me to add that to the screen, Mitch?
Yeah, I suppose that'll be my. I suppose that'll be my like first topic if we're going clockwise.
All right, mate, go for it.
So, if you see, so you got this is. The question is, if there was an election tomorrow and Rupert Lowell's party, Great Yarmouth First, stood in the next general election, how would you vote? And this is, of course, only Great Yarmouth itself is not nationwide. It says Rupert Lowell would get 44% of the vote, so he'd win. You get fairly equal between men and women, 43% women, 44% of men. One thing to notice, however, is like for people below the age of 45, he gets around 60%. So 18 to 34, he gets 60%, followed by Labour at 30%. Among 35 to 44, he gets 58%. Close, and only the Liberal Democrats come second, with 50. Anyway, even men is only 15% for them. However, these two, it goes down a bit. 45 to 54, 32%, and then 55 to 64, 31%. Then it rebounds to 60% among 65 to 74, but then for those age 75 plus, basically just vote either Tory or Labour. Bit of a weird poll going off the demographics there by age. Yeah, I mean, but and also it's worth noting that you got a small sample size, so that's one thing to take into account. But I mean, I'm looking at this going, that's something to be noteworthy. Is Rupert Lowell's getting an outright majority of Zoomers and millennials.
Well, the thing that I would say about it is that this is one time I agree with academic agent. I don't always agree with AA, but I do on this occasion. I think it would be pretty easy for Rupert Lowe to outflank Farage to the right quite easily. I don't know what you guys think.
I don't know. I mean, I think that if he ran an actual campaign, I think you'd suddenly see a lot of gaps in his ability. I mean, yeah, well, you're going to talk about it a bit later, I suppose. But I mean, you can look at the Tucker Carlson interview, and it's like he just wants to seem. He just seems to want to get stuck in this dead end of like Thatcherite economic policy. So it's like, the above chart is showing that people are really desperate for someone to come out on this stuff broadly meaning immigration, and I don't know. I mean, we like to talk a lot about people like, let's say, Farage being containment. I mean, Rupert Lowe isn't going to be much better than containment if he just wants to obsess over neoliberal economics all the time.
Yeah, no, I won't disagree with that. I mean, I'm at the stage where I don't actually expect any British politician to come up with anything original in that line, to be honest with you. I mean, is Farage any better? I mean, Farage is pretty Thatcherite in his economic policies, isn't he?
Yeah, he kind of knows. He kind of knows that it's not really the vote winner, though. They've talked about it a bit too much lately. I don't know what this obsession is with all these figures suddenly just banging on about like, oh, my regulation, my taxes, and this, that, and the other. And it's like, the ball's right there. Like, the Boris wave is here. You haven't got a better argument to do nothing but talk about immigration.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't disagree with you on this at all, Alman. I think Thatcherite economics is like pretty old hat. I mean, it's basically Reaganomics. So you're going back to the 1980s. Okay, then fair enough.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it didn't work so that well then either, when the economy was in much better shape than it is today. So.
I mean, there's arguments to be made for a pro-growth economic policy, But not that I would make them, but you could make them. But I think it's just the way they're making these arguments, particularly. Like there is, if you're really interested in that stuff, there is a way you can sell that to the public. But making the same sort of, boomer-esque, as I say, Thatcherite arguments is kind of, it's just not that effective. The amount of energy you have to expend, like recapturing that narrative that could be spent on things like just continuing to push the needle on immigration, it just makes it a bit of a pointless exercise.
Yeah, look, you won't get any argument from me on this. I think the Britain has almost no manufacturing industry left. It's all been destroyed basically. I think you've got to do something to bring some of that back. And I'd be talking more about that if I was a politician, rather than deregulation and trickle down economics and all this bullshit that we heard 40 years ago. So yeah, I don't disagree with you at all, mate. But
I mean, I would say with Ripple, I mean, he's got guys like Charlie Downs around him who make a lot more criticism about the sort of economic system we live under. So even when like Lowe is, because I mean, you got factors. I mean, Ripple was born in 1958, 59. So he would have been old. So he probably would have done well under Thatcherism. So I can understand why he's a bit reluctant to move away from that. Because I mean, when he was in his prime, when he was my age, he was doing a lot better when someone like Maggie Thatcher was at the helm. So he's probably got some sense of, well, he's thinking of going back to that. Whereas you could say, like, nowadays, it's the problems we've got now are not the same problems as Maggie Thatcher had. Although they do rhyme. For example, you got massively overbearing state. That's you taxing people to a point where, let's say you're someone who tries, for example, long-term financial planning ends up getting screwed over because even if you try to do some salary sacrifice for your own private pension, the government would just come in and nick your money, for example.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. I will say that, I mean, all right, we're going to talk about Lowe on Carlton a bit. He did at least not only talk about deporting illegal immigrants, which of course is essential, but he also said you've then got to start looking at non-productive legal immigrants. That's a big step forward from anything Farage will say, for example.
Yeah, and it's not so much fortunate, it's more annoying. It's an academic agent counter-signaling or some this one where he goes, oh, well, you can't deport, like, let's say 38% of, like, school children who happen to be not from here. And I'm like,
why?
I mean, what? I don't know where he's coming, because it's like, okay, you have, historically, right, you can see in other parts of the world where entire ethnic groups have just been moved inside of a few years.
Well, just look at post World War II, when millions and millions and millions of people were moved all over Europe.
Yeah.
So and I mean, I replied to his tweet about that on X, and I actually said, well, if that means we've got to sack thousands and thousands of lefty teachers, as far as I'm concerned, that makes remigration an even better deal, because I want to get rid of all those people anyway. They shouldn't be in the system. All they're doing is propagandizing our youth.
Yeah, I mean, it's as well, basically, so like he's turned to right, lefty shit liberals, like he calls himself sensible centre left, was it, or sensible left, whatever he calls himself these days, and he's just basically. I mean, it's like I said, like he's just a disappointed Blair, right? Like he just wants to go back to 2000 when you had someone like Tony Blair who was actually competent, evil but competent. Rather than
and he did this whole thing. He did a whole video the other day about how like the left's failing was that they couldn't make the right arguments, and you can kind of see where he's going with that, like what he's setting it up for. And then he immediately just turns around and like can't make an argument and just says, "There's no historical precedent for this," and immediately people just post like all of the all of the examples, like the historical examples of like mass exoduses of people from everything from like people like leaving communist Bulgaria to like or to like the demographic correction of like Crete and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Semyagog was talking about visiting the part of Turkey where all the Greeks used to live, and there are none there now.
Yeah.
You know, it's mass movements of population happen all the time. They're not even uncommon.
Yeah. Oh, like, you know, like if I mean we were having a bit of a conversation, a bit of a to and fro, which I didn't take part in the Discord about Christianity, but like you'll hear like atheist normies who will make this argument where they'll say, "Oh, but Jesus was probably brown. Haven't you seen people in the Middle East?" It's like that's a result of a mass movement of people. It's not the idea that people are static or in place forever. Thus is just not. It's just not accurate. We think of that, I think, here because in sort of northwestern Europe, specifically in England, we've been static as a people for a very long time, which is ironic because then the same people saying all this crap then come around and say we're a nation of immigrants and all sorts of other, you know, pish. But
when you can prove, Armin, really easily with just a little bit of historical research that more people have come into Britain in the last 20 years than in the previous 250.
Well, this is the thing, though. Even if that wasn't the case, like to go back to that argument, like if we just decide this land is for ourselves, even if there wasn't a historical precedent to it, there isn't a great deal they can do, and that's what we actually need to do. We need to be like, we don't care for all these semantic arguments. We don't care for this, that, and the other. We are deciding that this is ours.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you.
You know, like for example, we often talk about, like, not that I partake in it too much, but the Russia-Ukraine situation. It's not, you know, it's not that far removed from the idea that Ukraine, you know, prior to this war, during their own civil conflict, was essentially just trying to make Ukraine sort of an ethnic stronghold of the Ukrainians. You know, there's significantly more argument for why Russians should be there than there is for Pakistanis in Bradford, you know. So
100, totally agree with that. And do you notice, Armin, that Ukraine is, although it's like one of the centers of the POS, one of the real centers of the POS, and the globalists and all the rest of it, it's the one place where where hardly any third world immigrants are arriving. I wonder why.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, they were some of the first to leave, the few that they had.
Yeah, I don't think you'll find all that many black and brown people in the Ukrainian armed forces.
No. Well, that's the thing. I mean, they have volunteer units, but they're almost entirely full of white Westerners.
Yeah, there was probably more Brits and Americans that fighting with the Ukrainians than there was Africans or South Asians.
Yeah,
but it's otherwise it's totally one of the real centers of the POS. You know, all of the gay GAYE, bullshit is centered in Ukraine, and all the people who love Ukraine are the worst people in the gay. Basically, it's one reason I don't support Ukraine is everyone I hate supports them. So, you know,
yeah.
Yeah, I suppose there's another like topic about reform is that you've got basically the council leader in my neck of the woods, who basically he's been found logging a page on Facebook called the European Race, where he said, "If it ain't white, it ain't right."
Well, he's not going to last long in reform, is he?
Yeah, and apparently, yeah. I just look at this and go, you know, it's like Atman said a while ago, wasn't it? Like he said something along the lines of, "You can't keep calling a party racist without making it actual quote unquote racists take over that party." So,
I don't know. Look, someone already said in the chat that the Reform are looking to become like Tory Party 2.0, and I mean, yeah, I mean, Nigel Farage seems to welcome every Tory waif and stray he can find, and as far as I'm concerned, although I'll probably vote for them at the next election, if they become the 2.0 Tory Party, they're not going to achieve anything. Complete waste of time if that's what they want to
I mean, this is the thing. If Reform win by an enormous landslide, which I don't think is going to happen, but it could, it is within the realms of possibility. The one real benefit to come out of that is that they're going to have so many candidates. There's going to be quite a few good ones that are going to slip through the cracks. And when they have that majority, they can't just be deselecting half their MPs willy-nilly. They simply can't do that. They're going to have to hang on to the faction they have and try and hold it together. And if it's full of racists, they're gonna struggle to stay true to what the upper echelons of the party seem to want.
Mitch, what do you think about that, mate?
Yeah, I can't really disagree. I mean, it's like, you got the grassroots of Reform who are great at everything. It's just the problem you've got is that you've got guys like Nigel Farage. Yeah, I mean, it's like his response to the whole, this Peter Eted Gui, however you pronounce that name, like weird Jewish guy who keeps calling, who said, this guy kept making Holocaust jokes when he was like 14 and all this. And I'm like, first off, I was like nearly 50 years ago, but second, like Farage's response about because the BBC were having a bollock at him. He just went, some of the stuff the BBC were doing like 40 years ago in their programs could be considered racist today, so why don't you focus on that? And I'm like, they're already doing that anyway with Only Fools and Horses, where you can't watch certain scenes because they've been scrubbed off because they probably might say the P word in a certain scene or whatever. They're already doing it now, and I just find Farage's response very pathetic.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah, I mean, you no one would want to hear the jokes I was making when I was 14, but but everyone made those jokes. I think the thing that we need to do is to get rid of the legislation that makes that humor illegal, not stop doing the humor.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, I used to say some like racial jokes back in like 2018, and all the shit libs I know who wanted to dox me a few years back, they were laughing at those jokes at that time. But when the Black Lives Matter stuff happens, the programming just turns on. It's just like, even people who are shit libs now, I don't know, even just a few years ago, they were just like fully on board with the jokes about what we'd find funny. So it's just, it's kind of like a revolution eating its own in a sense, but also it's just a matter of. It's like, I don't know, because at least with the Soviet Union on Stalin, you knew where the line was. Like you knew where the boundaries were in terms of what you could say. Whereas under our regime, it's just a matter of they always change year after year. It's very feminine coded, where you never quite know what the boundaries are because they just keep changing every 5 minutes, and that's one thing that really irks off most Englishmen because I don't know about
and it gets worse all the time. It never moves the other way. It always only goes in one direction.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know, like the average Englishman. Like, I don't know about other people on the continent, but the average Englishman just likes to have a joke. Like, doesn't is instinctively. I don't want to say libertarian, but but just wouldn't be left alone. Just have a joke in the pub, but don't want to have to always keep looking over their shoulder every 5 minutes. About because they might say a funny joke that actually might be slightly a bit edgy or whatever, and it's just one of things where you go, it's like trying to impose that kind of standard on Britain. It's kind of like what Stalin would say about forcing communism on Poland. It's like putting a saddle on the cow. I just think that's one reason why Farage has a lot of support among the Gen Xers, because like Gen Xers, they can remember a time when things were a lot more laid back. Even just I can still remember the 2000s, which were a lot more laid back, and compared to now, or like the last 10 years, like since 2014, like culture's really gone.
It just gets worse all the time, Mitch. I mean, because I'm an older bastard, I've seen it. It constantly gets more restrictive what you're allowed to say. It never changes. It just always the envelope of what you're allowed to say gets smaller and smaller. I'm talking about in terms of things like humor, for example. I think we're winning the debate on immigration now. I mean, I just think that's a true fact. The general public are more and more coming to see it as the major issue, and the Overton window in that sense has got much wider. But in terms of like popular culture and humor and this kind of stuff, it constantly gets narrower. And two-tier care can stand there saying, "Oh, Britain has free speech." Britain does not have free speech, and it's a joke to pretend that we do. You can be sent to prison in Britain for something you type on X.
Or say in public, or think in public. But the thing is, I mean, like we were talking about that end of the distant right a second ago that have been annoying us recently. I mean, they would say the Overton window isn't real. Moving it around achieves nothing. And it's like, if I was to steelman that position, I would point out that there is some truth to that, because as you say, like the thing is, within the informal sphere, within the public sphere, what you're allowed to say publicly has actually loosened off a lot just in the last couple of years. But within the formal sphere, within what you can actually legally say, as you say, it continues to tighten all the time. There's this sort of effect now in British politics. It's like, it's just this endless monkey's paw of policy now, where they say, "Oh, you want to reduce immigration? You want us to bring net immigration down?" 6 months later, they go, "Oh, we've brought net immigration down," but they've done it because the country's deteriorated to such an extent that there's lots of people leaving, and the actual number of essentially brown people coming in is still in monstrously high numbers. And it's like, and then the same politicians will turn around and go, "Well, we said we'd bring down net immigration." The monkey, the finger like curls up, and then and it's like I saw that Sundar Katwala, people were saying to him, they were chastising him and saying it to him, "Oh, you're spurging out about what Farage said at school 50 years ago." But this comes in a week when we've just had another wave of grooming gang court sentencing remarks released, and they cover all this horrific stuff, and he goes, "Well, I have talked about it. Here's all these other outlets. We've all talked about it. Here's us talking about it." And the instances of them talking about it are them deflecting and pretending that actually it's the problem of the church or something like that. Another finger curls up. Yeah, it's just this endless cacophony of them pretending to fulfill public wishes and doing it in just the most deceitful, snarky, sneery way possible. And it's like, so okay, you can point to that and say the Overton window's done nothing to affect that, but at the same time, that's only leading to people talk about pressure release stuff, they talk about that sort of thing, but there is like, none of that stuff works anymore. Like, there's no pressure release valve now. The boiler is like, in a way, set to blow. It's just that it needs, for it to go off, it does actually need something in place, whether it's a rotation of the elites or whether it needs some sort of actual just genuine elite representation of some kind. It's just, but it can't continue the way it is now. I can't see the mechanism for how this is going to end, but it can't continue like this indefinitely. It's an unworkable status quo at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, the other thing to remember, of course, when you're looking at the illegal immigration figures, and of course, the illegal immigrants are much the smallest sector of them. It's legal immigrants that are the much the biggest. But people in the audience mustn't forget that. But when you're looking at the illegal small boat migrants who cross the channel, it's the wrong time of the year for them to cross the channel in small boats at the moment. The channel gets damn rough in the autumn and winter, so that's going to go down anyway. So they're just double lying, basically. And as Adam had completely correctly pointed out, there's a lot of real British people are bloody well leaving, and you can't blame them.
Well, I mean, I will say actually on that note, to go back to the whole we can't deport 38% of kids and generally the non-white population, like Britain actually has one of the things that makes us kind of uniquely in a good place, little white pill, is that actually our immigration population has quite a high turnover as well. There are actually quite a few of the people that are leaving that are migrants. They're obviously being replaced by other migrants, but one of the good things is that actually if you just shut off the incoming valve and made it hard for them to continue living here, that itself would have an enormous effect of draining that population from the country, without any need for force or violence or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you turn off the welfare tap and access to free this and free that, then yeah, for sure, I totally agree with you. I think a lot of these guys would self-deport. Because there'd be better deals to be had in other countries, and that they're not refugees; they're economic migrants. So if the economics don't support them coming to Britain, they'll go somewhere else. It's as simple as that. They will.
Yeah.
It's like I mean, it's sort of the Atlantic altogether, where it's us, the Germans, or the French. I mean, everyone's economy is just going down the crapper. I mean, the Germans, I mean, you know, in 10 years' time, for example, they're going to basically be in the same position as us in terms of how deindustrialized they'll be, going off like how expensive energy prices there are now compared to before the Ukraine war. And you've got France. Well, France has its own peculiar set of economic problems. And it's, I mean, I know that, for example, Apostolic Majesty, like he has a perspective that the system will fall more because of internal problems rather than external opposition, akin to the Soviet Union. Because, I mean, when you look at the Soviet Union in its latter days, it was a matter of it stagnated because basically the whole thing fell apart because it just couldn't economically support it anymore. You know, like, but I mean, some of that was influenced by external factors like Reagan pulling down energy prices, pulling down oil prices by working with the Saudis, but also like the Soviet state just being so dysfunctional in its latter days, and it's like that's what it feels like with our system. And I think I suppose I don't know, my final screen sharing them and I'll turn off. I imagine most people have seen what Charlie Downs had to say. Where like it's a long effort post, but basically the whole thing is he's saying our problems are internal, but none of it can. Like basically, the people are getting what they deserve because of how bad spiritually we are. Blah blah blah. Like, things to that effect. And
I noticed that somebody in the chat was saying Charlie Downs is pure containment. He doesn't strike me as that, but I mean, I don't know what you guys think about that.
I mean, I've met him. I don't. It's at least not deliberate containment. The thing is, he's not so much containment as he is just a young person who finds it a little bit too easy to post coal than to actually. It's like, and you get, I say young person, you get this with some of the older people too. They'll do this thing where they'll refer to like immigration as an invasion. And it's like, you kind of want to just grab them and be like, no, we invaded places. That's what an invasion looks like. You know, people floating here on a door and subsisting on like government social housing and welfare. That's not an invasion. Like, stop putting these people up on some pedestal like they're like conquerors, which is how they want to see themselves. Like, no, it's not what this is.
Well, and also our own authorities are inviting them here, basically.
Yeah.
You know, all these quangos and so-called charities and what have you that help them, they're all government funded.
Yeah, it's I know there was I think it was a Substack shared a while ago on my Discord, but basically because I can fall into the trap of being misanthropic towards my own people in the sense of, well, I keep thinking at times we deserve it, but then you got to factor even this, let's say my granddad's generation born in the Second World War, or my other grandparents' generation born in the 1920s. The vast majority of people have always opposed mass immigration. It's never been publicly supported, but it's only because of politicians. I mean, incentives they set because you got to factor that most people are by nature conformist. Yeah, sure, they'll not like a certain policy, but if they don't have someone like Enoch Powell to rally behind, there's not really much they'll do, because most people are by nature conformist. So that's why really you can't blame people. Like
especially women, I'd say, Mitch, are conformist. I don't think it's quite so true of men, but women definitely tend to be conformist. And of course, our whole political system, and in many respects our whole social system these days, is feminine. In Western nations, it's just ultra feminine. That's half the trouble with it, to be honest.
Even the right is that, though. I mean, this is the thing. It's a bit like the Red Squirrel.
I agree, Harman.
That people used to do.
You and I totally agree on that one.
Yeah,
the right is the same. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like with the whole like Red Squirrel rhetoric, where people would say, you know, it almost like people almost get to the point about like talking about like rights for whites, and it's like, I don't actually want racialized policies in this country. I want it to just go back to when we didn't even have to think about that, because we were just an unmolested majority that didn't have a thought for how we had to treat or be treated by others in our lands.
I was talking about this in the Discord the other day, Armin, and like I just want us to get rid of all of the feminist diversity in air quotes, DUI, all of that legislation. I just want gone. I don't want special protection for white people or British people. All I want is all of that special legislation gone. You know, if I want to run a business in Britain, I should be able to employ whoever I like, regardless of gender or what race they are or anything. And that's all I want to go back to.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I forgot to mention, because I think it was Woodpit earlier said about when like reform has to repeal stuff like the Online Safety Act. I remember like what was his name, Kruger, like Daniel Kruger, I think his name was. He was on my question time where he said, "Well, reform want to reform that Online Safety Act, not repeal it," and I just thought that's weak. Like, because it's that I just just get rid of it, because I don't like the idea of basic government types just telling me
it should be up to parents to protect their children, not the government. You want to get rid of, and this is as far as I will go along with Rupert Lowe, you've got to get rid of the nanny state. It's up to parents to look after their children, not the bloody government. I would increase parental rights. I wouldn't decrease them.
Yeah, and it's you. Yeah, because I mean, I suppose what people could call post-liberals, whereas I know, because that's the thing. Like, as someone was saying earlier about like how, because like, I mean, it's like I don't know, because some people in that circles don't like Harry Potter because it's very because there are quite a few things left-wing coded in it. But I will say that character Dolores Umbridge, she's a very good representation of what our regime is basically like, just like a passive-aggressive. We have to live with our HR managers who just scold men for basically being men. Like, for example, I remember when I was at school where the vast majority of my teachers were female, and they just loved using their power and just abusing it, just to scold the blokes for basically being blokes. And
100%. Yeah, no. Look. I'm an older generation than you are, Mitch, but I saw the start of that. It was starting when I was a young man, and you could see it. And it's just got worse and worse and worse. And the whole system is just feminine now. It just is. And I think all of those HR managers, for example, most of those people should be sacked. Simple as that. They're doing non-jobs.
Yeah, I mean that is a lot of industries now. They're basically required to have a whole class of people like this. I mean, bearing in mind, Tony Blair put like 50% of all young people through a university, and they have to have jobs somewhere. They essentially had to create a whole industry of jobs for these people.
But also, Adam, and I think even you'll be too young to remember this. When I was like a teenager. If you went to university in Britain and you were bright enough, it didn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
All you had to be was bright enough.
It was actually an elite institution. I mean, this is the thing. They always try to say that. I mean, this is another thing where I think the right should recapture something. They're always trying to proclaim that university fees are like an intrinsically right-wing thing, because again, the right has to hold the bag of neoliberalism. And it's like, well, no, because what they've done is they've turned it into an industry of mass education. Okay, yeah, you take out a student loan, which is essentially just a tax on graduating, but which, first off, even if you think about it through like a right-wing economic policy sense, doesn't make any sense. You're incentivizing completely the wrong way around. But it's designed to just funnel more money to their friends, which is academia. 100. And it's like it needs to be reduced back to being an elite institution for like
you
sort of 5%.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you should have, like, I don't know, maybe 20% of people going to university, maybe. But if you should also bring in some equivalent of the 11 plus back in the day, and bright kids should be able to go to grammar schools, because I like grammar schools. Get a good academic education if that's going to suit you. And then, because you're not having half the country going to university, then you could possibly afford to go back to the system where if you go to university because you're actually highly intelligent and a bright guy, it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah, I'll just say to Raw Biscuits about because I think it's something like if you earn 50 grand or more, your interest on your student loan goes up from 6% to 9%. If you earn more than 50 grand in your old student loan.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, Mitch. I mean, most of the population in Britain these days is working, I don't know, a day and a half a week at least for the state. They're not working for themselves because the tax is so high.
Well, when you factor that, I think half our GDP at this point is literally just state spending money. So literally half a week working week that the average Englishman does now is they just working for the state. Like, I don't even know you can consider that serfdom, because I think serfs probably had more had more of a say, or probably had a better deal than like working half. Because I mean, it's like medieval peasants are like 10% to the church, and then let's say, I don't know, 20% to the local lord. So it's still not the vast majority of but whereas the average Englishman working now has a worse deal in terms of how much of their money goes to the government than the average medieval serf. It's just, I don't know. Like, you imagine like ancient Greek philosophers for around there, like some Aristotle, probably would say we're slaves, what name.
Yep, totally agree.
Especially when you factor like the 2-child benefit cap going, so basically we're going to be subsidising our own replacements as well.
Yep. Tax slaves, basically. You're working for Rachel from accounts, basically. It's just ridiculous. Well, we've spoken about this stuff on this show so often over the years, and this is show number 251. I mean, but at least we can say we are winning these days. I mean, you can argue about the Overton window and all the rest of it, but I would say that average normies have woken up enormously to the detrimental effects of mass third-world immigration. I think it's people have really woken up to that in recent times. William Grenville, welcome, sir. How are you going?
I'm all right, Iron Duke. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. I was concerned to hear that when you came off our history stream on Sunday, or Saturday, I should say, I beg your pardon, for most people, you were getting broken into.
Yeah, it's quite effective because if you watch that stream back, we're talking about. I think you'll talk about Fort George, your visit to Fort George.
Yes.
And I had a moment where I sort of like phased out, where I lose flow of conversation. And that's because I'm hearing this noise downstairs, and then I just sort of continue, and then we finish. It's a good thing we actually finished when we did, because as I was going down, I heard like this banging noise, and first it came from the door, and then it was the window next to the door, and it was yeah, they were trying to um I, I guess trying to open the window to
Did
get
you
in
get a
that
look
way.
at them? Did you get a look at them, William?
I no, well, they were I think I saw one, but unfortunately, because where we live, it's in like a farming area. There's no lights outside. It's black as the ace of spades out there. It is completely black. All I could see was a hand with a glove on it, and he was definitely white, because you can see between the hand and
You
the
definitely,
jacket.
William, you definitely want to get one of those motion sensor light things for over your garage, mate. Those things work quite well.
Since
Yeah,
you got robbed by a white man, you definitely have to go and retell this story on Question Time.
I
They
definitely do.
They need this.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they'll invite you, William, just so that you can say you were robbed by a white man. Right?
I was right. Yeah.
This could be your ticket to fame.
Although, you know,
It could be
Portuguese.
Afghani. It could be a white Afghani. Could be one of those ones. You never know. I think there was two of them. What I did was, when I saw the hand, because I saw we had our curtains drawn, so I sort of peeked round the corner. I saw the hand up there. I don't know if he saw me, but I heard them someone shout like "Hey!" outside, and I went running into my cabinet where I have for the purposes of YouTube, I would just say I have an ancient weapon of magical charms. Okay, and yeah, I basically stood ready. I then while I was standing by the window, I was anticipating him to come in, so I had like my weapon ready, and I was on the phone to the police, and I said, "Yeah, he's trying to break in." I did tell them that I was armed, and that he was telling me, "Whatever you do, do not go after him. Do not go after him." And I said, I said, "Fine, I'll stay here. But if he comes in, yeah, it's
well, the thing
well,
is, William, in that situation, you would obviously be in fear of your life.
and listen, yeah.
What could they say if you happen to be a collector of old weapons or whatever it might be, and you're in fear of your life? It would be pretty natural to grab one of those things,
Yeah, I mean, listen, if he got the window open and climbed in, yeah, I would have done, and I would have, while we still have jury duties, I'd rather have a jury decide on what would happen to me in that regard. But I mean, to be fair, I found that the police were there within 10 minutes, and we're quite rural, which is kind of interesting. There was 4 police cars that turned up.
They must have had a patrol in the area.
Yeah, they must have done, and they turned up. The person in question, he uh, he ran off. So, I don't know where he actually ran off to. I think he probably hopped over a fence to the neighbouring property. But after that, yeah, it was gone. I think they were after the car. You know, because the car that I got, it's like one of those, you don't have to put it like the key into the ignition. It's just one of those.
Don't dox yourself,
Yeah,
William.
yeah. It's one of those modern electronic ones where, and apparently with scanners, with these cloning scanners, you can like replicate the signal to unlock the car. And I think that's what he was trying to do. If I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Something like that happened to me when I lived in a reasonably rural part of England. I lived on the end of a village, and they tried to break into our garage, which was way up the far end of our garden.
Yeah,
It was not terribly wide, but it was very long.
Yeah.
And the light came on, and the dogs. We had 2 dogs, and they started making a noise, and so I simply I grabbed a stick that I always keep handy, and just in case I need it when I'm walking and stuff, and let the dogs out. And by the time I got up to the end of the gate, these people were long gone, because the dog scared them off immediately. So
Yeah, I mean, as someone mentions, yes, do not leave your keys by a hallway or the front door because they do target it. And the funny thing is, even if they got in, the keys weren't there because I don't keep them there. And you shouldn't do if any of you are watching, they will try and do that. But as I say, I think that's why he was trying to get in. But I do hope he saw, because I did actually like show him, whoever it was on the other side, the very large ancient weapon.
The Dreamcatcher launcher.
The Dreamcatcher launcher, yes. So hopefully that did knock some sense into. I mean, they weren't very good.
I'm hoping William's got a longbow or something like that.
Do you know
Someone in
what?
the comments said blunderbuster.
Blunder. I have got a crossbow in like a crossbow, but the problem is, as many problems with crossbows, is it would take a long time to. I'm just imagine me there while he's breaking in, and I'm like, hold on a second, then I'm
they're running down the driveway, and you're just like, hold on a minute, just get the winder out and just
start winding it up.
When you got your 42-pound bronze cannon mounted at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. But let me show you guys. If you happen to be a sword collector in the UK, swords, like nice sabers and stuff like that, perfectly legal so long as you're a collector. And as I say, if you were in fear of your life, like William Grenville undoubtedly was, if you picked up something that you happen to have as a collector, well, they couldn't really blame you, could they?
No, and I did get a bit of a telling, because when the person ran off, I didn't run outside, but I did like stand by the door and hurl abuse at him.
Did you, William? Do you, without doxing yourself, do you live on your own, or do you have like female relatives and stuff in your place?
At the time, I was by myself.
Because of course that would be the other thing if someone broke into your place. If you had a wife or daughter or mother or anything of that nature in the area, you could just say, "Look, I was really fearful for them." That's the other thing.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes sometimes you do, and you have family and everything. Some of the time come round, but no, at the time, to be absolutely honest, I was honest with the police when they came round, and they did give me a bit of a telling off for grabbing a knife. I thought, well, sorry, I don't know if this guy could have been armed with a gun. You don't know nowadays in this country.
Absolutely right. He could have had a fucking machete. He could have had a knife. He could have had a gun. Absolutely correct. And the natural reaction for anyone in that situation is you're in fear of your life.
And in the previous stream, I said, listen, I'm not leaving this country. They're going to have to kill me, and it's either me or them. And like in that scenario last Wednesday when it happened, I mean, look, if it's some idiot with a machete or a thing, or me, yeah, of course I'm going to like make sure that I live and they don't in that scenario.
Well, no, you're not going to do that, William. You're going to defend yourself, and what happens. That's what I would say.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
You're never, obviously, because you're a good man, you're never going to deliberately harm them. But yeah, you're going to make sure you live. That's the important thing, I would say.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I say it was probably a good thing we finished the stream at that time when we did, because if we had gone on like probably even a couple minutes longer, one or two of them, as I say, I think there were two there. I think they would have got into the house. They would, and then that would have been a problem because I wouldn't know where they be, and you know, they would have access to all that. So yeah, it would have been difficult.
I see Aubrey Alley is saying that a couple of people were trying to break into her place. The thing is, I know because Aubrey Alley is an American girl, she has a nice 9mm pistol. And so I hope she had that with her when she was confronting people.
Wait,
you know,
isn't like I thought like in America. Well, I don't know if it's a state thing or is it a federal thing where you have because I know in Texas they have that castle doctrine, don't they? Every man's home is his castle. I mean, I know Rupert Lowe talks about that quite a few times. Like he'd have that enshrined into law again, so that because I don't
it certainly should be. I mean, because that's the traditional. The traditional British position is that every man's home is his castle, and you have the right to defend it.
I imagine one thing I was thinking about Texas actually after this. I was thinking about America because, of course, they have some states where different laws. I'm guessing burglaries in Texas is probably quite low compared to the other states.
Because people are allowed to defend their homes. Yes, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, because there's a huge chance that you break in and you got someone who's armed and you just get shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, when I lived in South Africa, I had a 9mm pistol that took everywhere with me, and I had a 5.56 rifle that I kept in a gun cabinet at home. Someone had broken into my house, they would have been most unfortunate.
I mean, to be honest, if I was working or living on a farm in South Africa, knowing the horror stories that come out there, I mean, yeah, I mean, why you'd have to? There'd been, especially if you're white, yeah.
3 of my friends that I had when I lived in South Africa up until 2000, 3 of them have been murdered since I left in 2000. So and all of them white guys, and all of them actually 2 of them English speakers, and 1 of them an Afrikaner.
Yeah, and of course that's been played down for what decades. It's been played down as even denied that it's happened, and yeah, I mean, who was it? I want to say, was it Lauren Southern who did like a documentary a couple of years back?
She did do one, yes, she did.
Yeah.
I've got nothing really good to say about Lauren Southern, but
I
guess was okay.
Yeah. There's a chap who did a stream about it. There's 2 of them. One's called like Conscious something or other. Yeah, that's it. And then they have
Conscious Caracal, who is a really good bloke. I know him fairly well, online, and I follow him on X, and sometimes watch his streams. He works for Afri Forum. A really good bloke. Like him a lot.
Yeah, and this other chap called Robert, who I know a bit.
Robert Doigan.
Yeah, Robert Doigan. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've both covered. They both covered this and other things as well.
There's another guy called William Pretzer who's worth following if you want to know about what's going on in South Africa.
Robert Dugan. Yeah, he did quite in-depth actually on the Durban riots a couple years back, and like what was the real like causes and why this happened and everything.
Yeah, I used to live in Durban. When I left South Africa in 2000, I was living in Durban. I had a flat on North Beach, where if you actually stood on tiptoe, you could just see the beach. But facing the wrong way because it was cheaper that way. But yeah, it's South Africa.
But I mean, with farms in the UK, that I had a feeling that this was going to happen at some point because the farms around us I knew had been hit several times, usually for like red diesel or something valuable like that can. So I had a feeling something like this would happen.
It's funny though. It's funny, William, because probably the last place I would think about burgling if I were a criminal would be a farm, because farms have loads of shotguns and they tend to have big dogs and all sorts of stuff that, you know, criminals really don't like.
Yeah, and the problem with that, Iron Duke, and this is something that, you know, a lot of them, the ones that are being hit, are usually by gangs, and they usually are armed. I mean, the one particular one that I can think of that happened not too far from me, about near, you know, in Somerset, you know, a couple several miles away. It was like a gang of 6 of them, and they were armed with yeah, effective machetes. You know.
Well, if I was like a farmer guy, and you know, it's not difficult to get a shotgun license as a farmer in the UK. It's not. Whatever, you know, Americans think British people can't get guns. That's actually not true. But especially if you're in the country, you can get a shotgun. And all right, you'd probably be unwise to shoot someone in the UK because they'd probably try and do you more than the criminal. But you could scare the shit out of them. And I don't give a fuck about somebody with a machete. If I've got a shotgun, they're not coming near me, you know?
Yeah, there was that case one where, like, a few years back, where some guy, he killed off a gypsy who was trying to burgle his house, and the police sided with the gypsy family over him.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, he shot. I remember that was in early 2000s, wasn't it? It was 'cause he died recently, the farmer. I do remember that.
But I mean, you know, basically, the law needs to be changed that people defending their own homes should be always in the right, pretty much.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean,
obviously, I'm not saying that people should be being able to shoot 10-year-olds. I'm not suggesting that. But
No.
if you're actually defending your house from grown-up burglars, then you should be allowed to defend your house.
Unfortunately, I mean, I have considered it, but unfortunately, I can't get a license for a firearm because you know, I've unfortunately, my doctor put on notes that I had when I was a few years ago. I was having like headaches and wasn't able to sleep, and he put down as depression. So I know I can't get a license.
Because they're worried you might blow your own brains out. Yeah.
Well,
Great.
or I might go to, like, you know, the local swimming pool or shopping centre or something, and yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Become a sword collector, William Grenville. I would become a sword collector, and I'd buy a late 19th century saber. That's what I do. And you know, if someone wanted to come at me with a machete and I've got a saber, they ain't gonna win. They're just not.
Yeah. I might even get me some brigandine armor or something like just be like full plated armor.
The weird thing is, mate, if you looked at my left hand, it looks like I got 3 joints on my index finger on my left hand. And the reason for that is I grabbed some an African's machete when he was trying to kill me, and I actually got to see my finger bone because it cut it right down to the bone. But he didn't kill me, I'm happy to say. So I'm still around. But yeah, you know, these things are not as scary as people think they are sometimes. But yeah, you absolutely should have a right of defending your own home. I mean, that goes without saying. Guys, I'm just going to do a little bit of channel admin. Please like the stream, people. It really does help the YouTube algorithm. I can't believe I know what an algorithm is now, but I do. But yeah, do hit that like button, guys. It really helps a lot. Takes 5 seconds, doesn't cost you anything. And if you want to support the channel, please do subscribe. And also, you can send us a chat on Entropy. And I notice we've already got a couple, which we will address towards the end of the stream. So thank you for that. Rong Tao Wu and Gerin, both regular supporters of the channel. That's kind of you guys. But we will address those a bit later on. Also, I've been getting criticism because I used the term Anglo-Celtic. Okay. Now, I use that as a shorthand term for the indigenous Northwest European white people of Britain. That's what I use it for. People have said it's woke. People have said that it's an Australian term. I don't use it for either of those reasons. The reason I use it is it excludes enormous numbers of paper Brits. You're not Anglo-Celtic if you're from anywhere else in the world except the British Isles. That's why I use it. It's the only reason I use it, and I'm going to continue to use it. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. All right. But anyway, that's why I use it. Let me see. Mitch, did you have anything else you wanted to add on your first topic?
No, nothing on my topic. I will say we've got the whole Anglo thing. It's like, well, it's like that Haig fella from Waterloo, but who's shouting do a lot for England.
In the middle of a Scottish square. Yes, I remember.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you look at like German propaganda from both world wars. Always referred to this place as England.
Yes, 100%. And 19th century British people, including Scots and Welsh guys, would sometimes say England. Yes, absolutely. And if we were still in the 19th century and there were not several million paper Brits saying, "Oh, well, I'm not an Englishman, but I am British," then I'd use it too. But at the moment, we're not. If good people like Steve Laws and I think everyone on this stream get their way, and remigration becomes a thing, and Britain becomes Britain again, I'll go back to calling everyone British. But at the moment, I use it because I get arguments. When I'm on X, I don't get it that much because I tell you what, I just block lefties. I won't discuss with them at all because they're just wanks, basically. But I do sometimes get someone saying, "Oh, what do you mean by British? I'm British, but I come from Jamaica or Pakistan or wherever."
Or the other. Well, even like what's an English person? English people, we're all immigrants. We're all immigrants. I mean, that's the later thing, and what it is. And I was watching. I saw on YouTube like a YouTube short, and there was these two, like, I think it was Joe Politics or something crap like that. And I don't know why it comes up, but it does. And it was these two daft bints, and they was talking about, like, what was English person? Well, we're all immigrants and everything. And what they've done is they've basically internalized some bizarre liberal crap, and also like the Americanized propositional state methodology that goes with it.
Yes, very much so. Yep.
And they've sort of replicated it to fit like Britain. And I just put a comment under there saying, "Listen, you daft cows. When I was born, Britain was still like 95% British. So literally my eyes, my memory, my knowledge isn't like some fiction in a novel. It is real. You can't gaslight you can't gaslight like probably most of the population who remember what Britain was not so long ago."
Yeah, I totally agree with you, William. My point is this, is that, if you're an Anglo-Celt, you're an indigenous British person and you can't be anybody else. Like Rishi Sunak was an Anglo-Celtic. The Nigerian leader of the Conservative Party, in air quotes, is not an Anglo-Celtic person. That's why I use that term, and that's all I use it for. And if some guy in Cornwall or Wales or the Highlands of Scotland wants to call himself a Celt, it's no skin off my nose. But so long as he supports my position of ending mass third world immigration, I don't care what he calls himself. Yeah, and as I say, if we get back to the situation, which I desperately hope we do get back to, of Britain actually being full of real British people, then I'll go back to calling everyone British. And that's my only reason for using that term.
The problem is, though, this whole discussion, as I mentioned, the geopolitics girls, they are actually like their names and everything sound English. So I'm going to go on there and assume that they are English, so part of us. It's our own people, because Indians
But we got
and
loads of
others.
traitors, William.
Well,
No Englishman today, no British person today, real British person, can doubt that we have a nation full of traitors, including all of our political class, pretty much.
yeah, but that's my point. The problem is, I mean, ultimately, the real enemy is the liberal ideas within our own people, because they're the ones that are the vanguard of upholding this. I mean, sure, listen, an Indian or a Pakistani, they're their own tribe, whether they're here in Britain or back in their native homeland. And, it feels to me in some capacity that particularly a lot of the Civnat types, they just want to integrate them. I don't want them integrated. I mean,
No,
hell,
nor
look
do
what's
I.
happened. Look what happened when they have tried. It's ended in disaster. It's usually
No,
ended up in.
nor do I. People want to ban the burqa. I don't want to ban the burqa because I don't want them to integrate.
Yeah, no,
I want
no,
them
exactly.
to go home. What I would do is I would ban halal and also kosher slaughter as being against British animal welfare principles. That'll make them go home much more than banning the burqa will.
Oh, absolutely. But both, and also when it comes down to it, uh, I when it comes to like the whole blasphemy laws, I would be happy if there was blasphemy laws against the native religious institutions of this country. So if you're a person who attacks, whatever you think of the Church of England and Church of Scotland and whatever, doesn't matter, because theoretically, when we're in charge, it's part of our state. It's our state.
William, I believe in what one of the chaps on our Discord says, and I'm not going to use his name because he hasn't been on the stream. But one of the chaps on the Discord pointed out that the Church of England, for example, isn't the big problem that many on the right think it is, because if and when we win, then we can change it.
Well, it's like, I mean, in some ways, it's like the BBC. I mean, I think Bowden did like an interview, in one of his speeches. He talked about how if like our side got hold of institutions,
Yep.
the BBC, for example, would be radically different from what you see today.
After enormous mass sackings, yes, it would be.
Yeah, and also I mean, hell, if I had the BBC, I would be having like weekly. I mean, we've got the art stream coming up. I would have weekly episodes of great British artists. I'd be retelling stories of great British heroes. I would do
absolutely
an epic film of Horatio Nelson, a life biography. I would do all sorts of great stories of people past and
William,
present.
did you see that movie thing I put up on the Discord with Richard Green as Robin Hood? When I was a little boy, Richard Green as Robin Hood was like a TV series for kids, and it was really popular. And there's no black guys in it, there's no brown guys in it. Maid Marian's a nice, pretty English girl. It's like that sort of thing is what we should be encouraging. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd even redo the William the Conqueror story, but actually do it with a better story for starters, much better story, with actual historians writing it. And I would do it as a sweeping epic with racially accurate cast and accurate clothing and everything else. I mean, there would be. I mean, yeah, this is the thing. Kids can. If I stood as a child and read Arabian Nights, does that mean I've internalized Arabic culture, Arabic society, the Arabic people? No, of course not. No, of course not. And I did read Arabian Nights.
It's an adventure story, basically.
It is. And I've read Arabian Nights. I've read many poems, the Legends of Sinbad, all that sort of stuff. It didn't make me an Arab. It didn't make me part of that world, and the same vice versa.
No, but at the same time, I do think that in a country like Britain, you should have British heroes like Robin Hood, for example, who actually are British. And, the idea that Little John was some black guy is just fucking ridiculous, frankly.
Well, then the recent one, that is the case. And also the fact that the Normans brought, as I said this to Mitch, I still find it hilarious that in this version, the Normans were the ones that brought Christianity to Anglo-Saxon England, which is so ironic because the Normans were
Yeah.
when the Anglo-Saxons were very very devout Christians, while the Normans had were still somewhat semi-pagan.
Guys, if you're interested in this topic, we have on this channel at least 3 streams about the Anglo-Saxons and Alfred the Great fighting against the Great Heathen Army, which was the Danish army. And of course, the Normans were originally the Northmen. They were originally heathens. So, there you go.
Now, to answer Woodpit question, don't historical programs get a waiver for diverse casting opportunities? Now, the thing is that story has been going around. Myself and Tom Rouser actually looked into it, and I looked at that is not true. There is no special dispensation of any kind, or any requirements that they have to have a diverse cast. There's nothing in anything within like British film standards or certification board that requires that. You could do a historical drama which is realistic and accurate in every capacity, and it to be released. You don't need to have a diverse cast.
But
and
William, we've got what's his name, the film director's Odyssey coming out soon.
Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan. Thank you, Mitch. And that's got race swapping in it, as well as some of the worst Bronze Age armor I've ever seen in any sort of movie. It looks real bad, real bad.
Yeah,
I certainly won't be paying to watch that. I've got to say.
Yeah, and I was going to say I wouldn't watch that. And bearing in mind, the funny thing is, Troy. If you remember Troy back in the day with Peter O'Toole, Brad Pitt, and Orlando Bloom, and so on and so forth.
The Australian actor who played Hector, who I thought was pretty good in that. But yeah,
I thought it was pretty good, and also that the one that played Helen of Troy, who had a crazy crush on her. Crazy, absolutely insane crush on her back in the day.
I never thought she was that great, to be honest with you. I thought she was like, she was absolutely an 8 or something like that. But yeah,
no, literally like 11 out of 10. Bloody hell!
Wow. Okay, well, we know what type you go for now, William.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blonde Aryans. Yeah, so
listen, I love blondes, but I like them to have slightly bigger chests. But there we go. It's just me.
No, it's the smaller chest is aristocratical and very high brow. If you don't know,
if you say so, old boy. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, when that came out though, it was not received quite well. It was considered actually a bit of a letdown. I think because it happened at the same time as, or roughly at the same time as Lord of the Rings. I think people wanted a lot of fantasy, and it didn't provide that connection. It was quite grounded in realism. There wasn't that much input of any sort of divines or gods or Apollo or anything like that. So, but look, I actually rewatched the director's cut a few days ago. And looking at it now, it's a masterpiece. If this came out today, it'd be a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's an okay movie. I mean, like I said, it doesn't stick very closely to the Iliad, but it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I'll say this now because otherwise I'll forget. I know, like next month, releasing Lord of the Rings for the 25th anniversary in cinemas, starting January 16th. So,
is it the extended or theatrical version?
Extended.
Oh, that should be good.
Yeah, they'll be worth going to see. Also, guys, I mean, and Mitch mentioned this earlier when he was talking about Only Fools and Horses, which is a classic British series from a long time ago now. Get physical media, guys, because if you don't, the powers that be will cut stuff. what they don't like. So physical media is always king, in my opinion.
I heard that there's actually a longer cut of the Lord of the Rings, like beyond the extended, where there are like I saw there's a clip of Gandalf in the Fellowship, right at the beginning, where Frodo jumps on the cart and they're sort of heading off through Hobbiton, and Gandalf explaining the history of like Numenor or something like that to him. And I've seen that clip go around several times. So, and apparently there's like a longer cut out there.
Cool. Guys, we've been going an hour and 20 minutes, and I'm conscious that we've only done the first take of Mitch, and I want to come on to Alman. Alman, did you have a first topic for this evening?
No, I suppose we could talk about question time if you wanted to. Just briefly, but there isn't that much.
Yeah, let's talk about that briefly. I presume you mean that the Bias Brainwashing Corporation filled their audience with illegal economic migrants.
I'll be honest, I haven't actually seen the clip. I just kind of saw it and was like, "Oh yeah, we know where that's going." I was kind of more thinking about David Polden, or I should say Zach Polanski's thing about where he's been spurging out recently, sort of since then as well, about the care sector.
Oh yeah, wipe. Blacks can only wipe my bums, basically.
Yeah.
that was it.
Apparently, people were making similar complaints when Spain chucked it for Muslims all those years ago. But, well, who's going to make our shoes now that the Muslims are gone?
Yeah, and it's like the thing is as well. They bring up the care sector a lot. Like that comes up a lot. It's either the NHS, it's either the doctors, or it's the care sector. And the thing with the care sector is that it seems like the worst example, because up until the Boris wave, the care sector was overwhelmingly white. In fact, I have actually got a thing I'm going to share about this, if you don't mind, Duke.
Of course not. Can I just say to Woodpit 420, who's saying about kings and generals are paid shills for Ukraine. So I have nothing. I have nothing to do with those guys because they are paid shills for Ukraine.
I was going to say the video of the East India Company is probably one of the worst I've ever seen.
Thank you, Mitch. Totally agree.
And also, it was revealed in the Doge papers, which was not widely reported. The kings and generals actually were getting money from the US. It was a fund within the US State Department, which explains a lot of
and probably Mossad too, if you ask me. But yeah.
And I mean, for me, like the most recent one where they talked about like the history of Europe during the start of the 100 Years' Wars and talking about the Black Death and saying that, well, the reason why Poland didn't get it so bad was because the Jewish people taught the Christians how to wash properly. Unironically, that is what they said, like word for word. That's not me making a ridiculous statement.
Like that would make the slightest bit of difference to the Black Death, which comes from a flea off a rat. Yeah, all right.
Well, but by that logic, how come Spain got it quite bad? Like surely because Spain had a higher proportion of Jews at that time.
The guys, like I said, kings and generals, they're shields for Ukraine. They were getting money, as William Grenville has just pointed out. I don't follow those bastards at all. And I used to a long time ago before I realized they were shields for Ukraine.
Yeah, it's like, I can watch some of the older content from like 5 years ago sometimes, and I'll make sure I'm doing it on Brave so I don't get a single penny worth of ad revenue to them if I'm going to do it. But yeah, I haven't watched any of their new content in ages.
There's one chap on here. What's it? Because he's quite good. I don't think he is. I don't think he's part of like the sort of Ukrainian sort of shills network. History March.
Oh yeah, I follow that channel. I quite like
it. He's all right. He's
Yeah,
all right, William. Yeah.
he actually has better infographics as well. I just will add he has like better content. I've started
I just
reading
hate
this.
kings and generals because, like I said, they're paid political operators, and they're
Yeah.
talking about the modern world, not about the stuff they're pretending to do.
I mean, their history of the Kievan Rus was probably one of the most disgraceful things I've ever seen. I mean, it's just straight up disgraceful, and also a lot of it is lies.
100, yeah. It's pretty
uh,
much like what most of the Western analysis of the Ukraine war is lies, basically. That's just
Well,
all it is.
I did actually like. I was leaving like I was like spamming comments. I was like, okay, kings and generals. Like, what about? Okay, you talk about the Kievan Rus. Like, what about the rest of eastern Ukraine? Why don't you talk about that? Oh, because it was occupied by the Tatars of the steppes. Oh, is that so? Like, most of Ukraine isn't actually a thing, then, is it? Oh, okay, now I understand.
Yep, totally agree with you, mate. But anyway, Atman's trying to talk to us about something.
Yeah.
So let's do,
Sorry.
and then I'll come to you. By the way, William.
Well, I mean, yeah. It's just a small point. I was just going to say that that, like, like that they bring up about the care sector. The care sector just seems to be the worst example of for talking about immigration, because the care sector was overwhelmingly white until the Boris wave, until there was a point where they opened up, I think, the skilled work visa, especially for post-study. There's like a post-study, or there used to be a post-study pipeline from the post-study visa to a skilled work visa, which people would use to basically get their minimum 5 years so they could get indefinite right to remain. And you can actually see that. I mean, I've got a chart up on screen now, and it's like medium hourly rate wages for care workers, and you can literally see where in like 2020 going into 2021, where they introduced this pipeline, and just you had the blackening of the care sector. And it negatively impacted wages. And of course, people can say, well, that means the care sector costs a lot of money, but of course it costs more now, because I think there was a thing a while back where they showed that, like, I think Nigerians on the care worker skilled visa were bringing over something preposterous like 12 dependents each or something like that on average, which is just insane.
Did you, Adam, ever see the? I think it was quite infamous at the time. There was a little old bloke of, like, I don't know, 95 or something, and this enormous fat black woman was punching him, who was supposedly his care worker. I mean, I think she got the sack, and I think it might have been in America, but you kind of
there's quite a few of those in America. I've seen quite a few of those videos. They're pretty awful. I saw one where there's this elderly lady in a wheelchair, and they're outside, and she's trying to ask this big fat Shaniqua to take her back inside again because she's cold. And this I was about to say something quite not YouTube friendly. This black lady was like, "Shut up, bitch! I'm on the phone," or whatever. And it's just like rage-inducing content, that sort of stuff.
There's a thing called civilization, and some people don't have it.
No. It annoys me that I have to share oxygen with these people.
100% agreed, mate. 100% agreed. I mean, I just look. I sometimes I guess you have to put your elderly relatives in care homes, but generally it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, but it's like, what was this for? It was a sector that was already largely white, changing it over to be full of immigrants. Okay, yeah, it's marginally reduced the wages, marginally, but it hasn't. It's not exactly stopping. It's not exactly reducing the overall cost. And it
also, Mitch, sorry, Adam, and it also used to be a lot of the workers in care homes used to be things like student nurses and people like that, who were doing it to make a bit of money while they were student nurses.
Yeah.
I know nurses as well. It used a lot of it used to be like, was that, I think Diane Abbott complained about it back in 2010, which is, oh, why are we letting loads of white, like cute Finnish birds when we could be having loads of black nurses from like Jamaica or something? And that's why we can't have cute, like cute Eastern European birds as nurses anymore.
Well, I mean,
remember
there
Diane
also
Abbott complaining about that,
also used to be lots of young British nurses, like real British nurses, who, when they were students, would do that as like a part-time night job, you know, to make themselves a bit of money while they were studying nursing during the day.
Yeah, and it's like, what was this for? Was it really just that they're so desperate for as many pipelines for infinity Bomalians? Is that all it was? Like, and this is the thing. I mean, this goes into when I was saying earlier about, like, I don't see containment valves anymore, and part of this is personally me, but when I see them and they go, oh, what about the NHS doctors? And immediately I just sit there and think, a career path that British people are essentially locked out from through a mixture of uh, hospital medical training caps, and now they've got the lottery system, the placement lottery system, which means even if you get through, of which I think in like 2016 there was like 700 straight A students that didn't get into that got rejected from medical school.
So you're talking about British doctors?
Yeah, people who want to train to be British doctors, British people who want to train.
And they were straight A students. Yeah,
they're like cream of the crop, and they're being turned down because of the medical school cap. And then on top of that, even if they get through that and they become a doctor, they can't get a job anyway because of the new lottery system they've brought in, which prioritizes foreign recruitment over pre-domestically trained doctors. And it's like they say that, and to me that just feels like a slap in the face. It makes me almost violently angry. And it's the same with the care worker thing. Like okay, yeah, it does still work on some people, I suppose, but it does kind of feel like we're past pressure release valves at this point, because it just seems like every excuse they go to, every way they turn,
they don't even hide it anymore.
No.
It's open, and if you don't see it now, then you must be like one of the dumbest people in the entire world.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, maybe I'm being a bit optimistic on this, but like with Zach Polanski, I said to someone at work, oh, you know, he's probably going to top out at like 22%. I don't see him getting more than that. I mean, you'll probably get the odd poll that shows more than that, but I mean, like a solid, like a multi-poll result of being more than 22% support. To be honest, I kind of have a feeling it's going to be even lower than that now, because like, who does this argument appeal to? If we kick them out, who will wipe our asses? Like, who is there supposed to? The Pret woman, she's already got parties to vote for. She ain't voting for the Greens.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, the problem I have with Polanski, though, this Zach Polanski, is that nothing about him is organic. His support, his rise, it is totally astroturfed and backed by elite. I mean, you could argue with Momentum and Corbyn, there is some like, some sort of outside group or something like that that's managed to break through the barrier or whatever. With him, he came from nowhere. The Greens suddenly have like these ridiculous poll numbers. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. By the way, guys, while we're on this subject, I mean, did you guys see the people smashing crap around the Crown Jewels recently?
I heard that story. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the video, and look, they were never going to damage the Crown Jewels because that glass is unbreakable, really thick glass. But you know what? And I'm no big royalist these days. Like, I'm no fan of the current king at all. But disrespect. You shouldn't be doing it.
Well, number one, the was this in the Tower of London? This is actually my first question. But did this take place in the Tower of London?
Yes, I think it did.
Well, one thing can tell you, because I've been there, I've seen the crown jewels in the Tower. They do
Same,
search you.
same.
They do search you. So I reckon this was again another AstroTurf stunt.
Hang on, William. They search you?
Yeah, when I went in, we were searched, and if you had a bag, because they had a bag with them with all the customs.
Oh yeah, okay. When I was there, when I went there, and I've been there twice because I used to live walking distance from it. I've been there twice, and when I went there, the second time when I was much older, yeah, they did search people's bags, but they didn't search you.
Yeah, but they had their custard and whatever was in the bag.
Obviously, yeah, it would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So-
you're right. Yeah.
So I like, and do you remember the whole like Extinction Rebellion? They would have like tins of soup and they would chuck it over, you know, paintings at the National Gallery and what have you. And you'd always have like the media there to take photos. Well, the media were there today to take photos, and yeah, this was organised. They allowed
Yeah,
them to go in.
it was a con job, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's what I'm saying. It was a con job.
Yeah.
It wasn't like some random protesters turned up, they chucked it over. And because let's be honest, if say we turned up at like I don't know, some like Banksy exhibit and we like, you know, smashed the painting because he's a like a ridiculous boomer, yeah, no, we'd be tackled to the ground and like dragged out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the same. That would be a genuine radical act. But this was just a total AstroTurf act, and yeah, I as I say to people, don't buy it. It was nonsense. This.
Someone is saying they're fake jewels, not the real jewels. I actually think they are the real jewels, Key Buckley. But you know what? I can go down conspiracy burrows a lot, but I do call a halt to them sometimes. The glass around those things, mate, is it's like bulletproof, unbreakable glass. I think they're real.
To be honest, when I was there, I was more impressed with the armor of like the Tudors and some of the Plantagenets there that stored there, and the horse armor as well.
100. Look, I went to see the crown jewels. Partly the first time because my dad took me, and there was almost no security back then, but because I was a little kid. But when I was a bit older, I went because I thought, okay, I'm here, I might as well go and look at them. But yeah, I found like Buckley's in air quotes machine gun more interesting. You know, that had square bullets for Turks and round bullets for Christians. I was much more interested in that sort of thing than I was the crown jewels. And I even really liked the Ravens, and one of the Beefeater guys was talking about the Ravens. He was the guy who fed them and all that kind of stuff. Much more interesting. But yeah, I agree. Adamant, this was your topic. Did you have other bits to say on it? And
no,
any comments?
No, not really.
Key Buckley, you keep saying the crown jewels are not real. They've admitted it several times. Do you know what, Key Buckley? I don't give a shit, frankly. Maybe. I doubt it, but okay. Mitch, anything to say on this one? Or actually, Mitch.
I go. I think isn't like a subreddit somewhere where it's basically just it's just these are people who are medically trained, but they just got screwed over by the way the NHS handles the job market. So you even got people on Reddit who are just complaining about how bad the NHS is nowadays, where you might train for years, like it takes several years to train as a doctor. I mean, by the end of it, the NHS would just refuse to hire you and instead just hire some, I don't know, 90
Nigerian
IQ,
or
Indian,
or whatever,
90 IQ Indian who probably spends his time groping female patients.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with any of that stuff, guys.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. Like they're 26%. I mean, to go on the NHS, they're 26% of NHS doctors, but they commit like almost 60% of all the malpractice cases.
Actually,
yeah,
it's less than that.
including sexual
Oh, yeah.
assaults and all sorts of things. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the great late love of my life was an Australian nurse with a master's degree, and she pointed out that in Australia, one of the problems, and I'm sure it's exactly the same in Britain, is that you would get a nurse from a third world nation, and you couldn't verify their qualifications. You just couldn't.
Yeah.
And so very often, even when they came over, you ended up retraining them anyway, just in case they didn't know some of this stuff. If they were doing something complicated like intensive care or whatever it might be.
I mean, I'm looking at the stats that you have, like with the Boris wave, and since that you've had a lot of people from Africans from Zimbabwe and South Africa and so on and so forth who've come. I mean, what is their standard for pass rate for a nurse in those countries compared to here?
All I can tell you, William Granville, having lived in South Africa for 15 years, is that the main hospital in Durban, which was one of the main hospitals in South Africa, had a lot of broken windows and what have you. And this was 25 years ago when things were not as bad as they are now. So I dread to think what they're like now.
Yeah.
But there again, of course, Lucy Letby case. Lucy Letby, I think, good chance she might not have been guilty of that crime. And it's not just me that thinks that. They had open sewage coming through the taps on their premature baby ward. And then they wonder why lots of these very weak and sickly premature babies died. Probably ought to be looked into, in my humble opinion. But,
Yeah.
Much easier to excuse the NHS by saying, oh, it was an evil nurse.
Yeah.
But, whatever. But I've spoken about the Lucy Letby case a couple of times on this stream. And like I say, I don't think her conviction is safe at all, to be honest. But, there we go. Maybe it is. Maybe it's right. But I certainly don't know that. And I thought British justice was about, actual justice. But whatever. And the NHS in Britain is such a sacred cow. It's insane. But, there we go. William Granville, did you have a first topic for this evening?
I was going to say, I can't really think of.
God, you've had almost 2 hours, William.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, we could always. My one, which you can talk about if you want, was going to be Rupert Lowe and Tucker Carlson and what you.
Oh yeah, actually, I did watch a bit of that. Yeah, actually, well, I could briefly talk about that.
Go for it.
Yeah, so Rupert Lowe was on an interview with Tucker Carlson. I think that's quite significant because Rupert Lowe's also created his own party.
Well, he's created his own pressure group, to be more accurate. Restore Britain, which I'm a member of. I know.
No. I mean, registered his own Great Yarmouth first. I mean.
Oh, in Great Yarmouth. Yeah, sorry,
yeah,
it's not a national party. Yeah,
it's not. It's not a national party. His own registered. Instead of just being independent, he's now.
We talked just before you joined us. We were talking about how Rupert Lowe will destroy reform in Great Yarmouth, and we were also talking about how he could outflank Nigel Farage to the right very easily. And that was just before you joined us, William. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and in that he was asked about the whole incident around Mohammed Yusuf and the guns being expelled from Reform. They talked about the actual state of this country. And I think it is worth noting. I mean, a lot of people will say when the party gets in which they don't like, like Labour and Tories, whatever, each side will say, "Oh, this is the worst it's ever been," and I don't like to sort of engage in that, but I do think under Starmer, this is like the worst. It has been absolutely a terrible government. I mean, the way that they've conducted themselves in government has basically been just to spit in the face of the British public every single time. Really no quarter. At least in the past, they try and butter you up. Now it's just nah, it's a slap in the face. So, no, but I thought the interview was good. I thought it's quite interesting because this, Tucker Carlson is at the moment he is kind of like the number one podcast circuit for the right, you could say now, in worldwide. Or in particularly in the Anglo-speaking sphere. I don't know if Farage got an invite, but I don't think he did. But Rupert got this invite, and yeah, I'm just going to bring up actually because I got here what was discussed.
William, William, before we move forward on this, and I'm sorry, Mitch, you can come in a sec. What do you think about Matt, whatever his name is? I can't remember. Is the
Matt Goodwin?
Matt Goodwin, thank you, Mitch. Saying that Tucker Carlson interviews Nazis. Because you know what? I just thought, okay, well, that makes me like Rupert Lowe more. But anyway, and by the way, I'm no sort of Nazi. I think Adolf was the second worst. Sorry, probably the third worst human in the world after Stalin and Mao. But
Yeah. Well, Tucker gets called. They say that he is in the pockets of Qatar, Qatar Tucker or whatever, and that's basically like a Zionist dog whistle because Tommy Robinson's done that, and the reason Matt Goodwinson's done that is because he's interviewed people who are from the right, criticize a lot of the Western quote unquote allies, and
guys, sorry, William. This is something I wanted to bring up actually, and I forgot, and you just reminded me, William Granville. I keep seeing posts from Tommy Robinson, right? And Tommy Robinson just spent, I don't know, 8 weeks or 10 weeks in Israel or whatever it was, paid for by Rebel News.
To debase himself publicly, yeah.
Yeah, where he explained how vile Britain was and how we should have supported Israel more back when they were hanging our sergeants and blowing up British women and children in the King David Hotel. Britain was a bad, bad place, according to Tommy. And you can watch on some of Tommy's tweets and what have you, where he has black women and all sorts of other diverse people pointing out that there's not enough Christ in Christmas. Sorry, guys, I have no time for Tommy Robinson whatsoever. And also, incidentally, we were talking earlier about Lauren Southern, once deeply tied in with Tommy Robinson and Rebel News and all those Zionist type people. But yeah, well, sorry, I didn't mean to stop you.
I think it's worth noting there as well, like the typical political direction of these things. Like when Labour comes out currently and they complain about this or that policy that the Tories brought in, and people just lambast them and say, but when the Tories were doing that, your only complaint was they didn't do it hard enough. Yeah, and it's like in this instance, you know, you have the Corbynites saying that we brought Israel into being, and therefore we've created some sort of original sin, and then the Israeli side is like, you didn't do enough to bring Israel into being. and then like, you know, you can look at this on the flip side, not to keep throwing shade at them, but then you look back at Reform, and when Mahmoud is making her like mild criticism of immigration, instead of Reform saying you're not going far enough, they say, oh, here's an AI slot picture of you in a Reform rosette. It's like, okay, great,
I mean,
brilliant, good job.
I actually have looked at like the early.
fear, the problems, Adamant, of being an eternal Anglo. You know, we're evil, but we're not evil enough. That's the trouble.
I mean,
You know?
when I look at like, especially like early suggestions of like having a Jewish state, you know, not like in the Holy Land, but anywhere, I get the feeling that, when I look at a lot of the discussion around it, particularly not just in Britain but in Europe, I actually think, and this is not my view. This is what I think people at the time, you know, in the early 20th century and what have you. I actually think a lot of them were writing because they just wanted them gone in their respective empires and countries.
Yeah.
They just wanted them gone. I don't think they really like cared about like any imperialistic project. They just, I think, in particularly places like Austria, Hungary, and um, you know, even in Britain and stuff, that they just wanted them gone. There was some element of them just wanted them gone. I don't think it was a the Corbynists make it. There is like some. They say, "Oh, this was like a, you know, they were in the pockets of the Rothschilds," and they try and make these incredible connections. And yes, I mean there is a connection, but I don't think it was entirely like.
William, look, you've done streams as I have with
Yeah.
Beta Britannia, right? And we've spoken about what's his name, the guy in charge of the Arab Legion.
Oh, Bagot Glub, yeah.
Bagot Glub, etc. The traditional British position into the 1950s was mostly we were pro-Arab, really, to be honest.
We have been. I mean, by the whole, we have been quite very pro-Arab, and I mean the reason why, you know, and particularly during the First World War, and I hope we do a stream about it. But you know, to fight the Ottomans, we garnered, we sought the support of the Arabs because that's what at the time required it.
Go and look at, you know, the extremely famous Lawrence of Arabia. Who was he supporting? Faisal and the Arabs in Saudi Arabia, not the Jews. You know, not the small ones.
And I hear this from liberals again. They say, well, and the left, they say, well, we created the problem in the Arab world. We created the problem because of the boundaries, and it's like, well, what the hell are you on about? Syria and Iraq is based off the traditional boundaries of Mesopotamia and Syria, Palestine. It's based off those old those weren't just like brought up out of nowhere by the British and the French states. Those were existing Arab boundaries anyway.
William, look, I've got many American friends and many American people who I like, but you know what? Part of this is that our American friends, in air quotes, would sometimes like to make out Britain to be the bad guys in the Middle East rather than themselves, you know?
Yeah, and I will say there used to be a very thriving Christian community in Syria, in Iraq, in Jordan, and also in Palestine as well, and Lebanon. I mean, Lebanon was the sole Christian state in the Middle East, and now the Christians are a minority. And there's hardly any Christians left in Iraq or Syria.
William Grenville, 100. In Australia, I went out with a Lebanese Christian girl who used to be an air hostess for Lebanese Airlines. And now all the people on the right in the chat can call me a nasty, horrible race mixer, but he was as white as I was, and you never saw a.
Well, no, they're basically. I mean, I think even Tom Rousel said that the modern Lebanese person shares exactly the same DNA as like an Italian, or late Roman Italian living
Well,
in.
earlier, William Grenville, very much earlier, we were talking about, oh, Jesus Christ was a brown person. And I think it was Atman who pointed out that, that's a result of many Muslim invasions, that how brown those people are today. So,
No,
it's...
he would have looked. Actually, you see my profile pic. He probably would have looked like the skin complexion of what I've got on mine.
No, he looked
He
like my
probably
profile picture actually.
he
He's
wasn't
basically an Anglo.
he wasn't there. He wasn't a filthy Celt. He wasn't a filthy Celt.
Oh God, no! Don't talk about those filthy Celts, guys. Come on, they're our real enemies, not the third world migrants.
It's the Carlyle was right all along. It's the Irish. I'm joking. I'm joking. But no, he spoke Aramaic. I mean, Hebrew wasn't even his language. He spoke Aramaic. He would have looked. Where he lived in Galilee was also populated by many of the Greek diaspora from Alexander, the legacy of Alexander's conquest.
He would have looked pretty similar to a modern Greek, to be honest.
Yeah, a modern Greek, a modern Italian. He would have looked like, or even I would say, if you would look up images of Assyrians, people who are Assyrians, the real Assyrians, they're just basically white. They're white, but they have like a bit of a, dark hair. That's basically what he would have looked like, and he wouldn't have been like black or brown, no, because Arabs were distinct even back then. And there weren't that many Arabs in the Roman Empire. I think there was like a region of the Sinai, which is where the Arabs in the Roman Empire came from, and they were quite rare, and they were quite rebellious as well. I think there was quite a few rebellions down there. The was it Nabateans? That was it, and the Lukids, the two Arab groups in the Roman Empire.
Nabateans and Lachmids or something like
that.
that.
Lachmids or whatever. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yes, I've met American blacks who were absolutely ardent that Jesus was black. Well, I've known American blacks who were like certain, like King James was black and Mozart was black and everything. The black Israelites, they believe everybody. That doesn't Napoleon was black, and it's everyone is significant. I think they even believe did they believe Hitler was black?
Oh, AI has been a disaster for the basketball Americans.
Yeah. The black Israelites, because they end up like saying like hail Hitler and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Louis Theroux. There was an episode of Louis Theroux going there, wasn't there, and talking to him, which is quite funny, but never gets brought up much now. But yeah.
Yeah,
and they're going through all the names. He's like black, and was it Washington? And they're like, oh, that's up for debate.
Yeah. They say like Shakespeare, black, Washington. There's one I think they say, well, he may have had a bit of swarthy skin tone or something like that. The Pope might be a Yank, but Jesus
was always an Englishman, of course. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's a joke.
We should. Do you know what we should have a. Do you know? I'm still not happy that the Pope is American, and I'm not saying he's not qualified. He's not. He wouldn't be better, but I think the Pope should have at least been European, like actually from Europe.
Don't care, to be honest. I'm not a Catholic, but
yeah,
yeah. But I'm not a Catholic, so I don't care. I'm not against Catholics. I have many good Catholic friends.
Good Catholic friends, yeah.
Yeah, I got many good Catholic friends, but my problem is not Catholics, it's people on the right who want to get into arguments about stupid shit, basically. So you have trad-caths who want to get on arguments about stupid shit. You have some pagans who want to get in arguments about stupid shit. You have some English people who want to get in arguments about stupid shit. And we need to take a lesson from the left. Don't punch right, punch left.
Well, the trouble is, too many of them treat their quote unquote their religion. I say quote unquote their religion as like some sort of like Marvel badge, like Marvel superhero badge. Like, you know, 1 week they're a Catholic, next week they're Hellenic pagan, then they're an Orthodox. I mean, there's just like, I mean, they're just wearing it as like some sort of like tradable card, like playground tradable card.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you, mate. But all I'm trying to say is, like, your magic juice is not necessarily everyone's magic juice, and you know, I'm not against your magic juice, but let's not slag off the other people's. Is all I would say. You know, I'm not against trad-caths. I like trad-caths. Some of my best friends are trad-caths, but I'm not. Like,
Well,
I'm an agnostic, okay? And if I was any religion, I'd be Church of England, which is an appalling church these days.
I mean, probably I'll sort of rephrase this. I would say a lot of people who claim to be this, that, and the other are just milking it for internet clicks. If I'm absolutely honest, there are some who are genuine.
Yeah, some, but there are also plenty that don't. I mean, there are good trad-caths. Don't get me wrong. I'm not.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, you got Charlie Downs, who's a trad-cath, and he, you know, that post I shared earlier where he was saying, "Oh, well, we Brits deserve everything that's happening now." Why? That happens. Little trad-caths will go, "Oh, well, if we were all Catholic, if the population was 100% Christian, then everything would be honky dory again." It's like, no. Like,
no, absolutely not. And also, you would have to get rid of so much history. Again, this is something we spoke about, or I spoke about on my Discord last week. Like, I think people get religion in the past wrong. In the 19th century in Britain, yes, far more people went to church than go to church now. But you know what? It was always mostly women and children. Like, men didn't go to church as much as women and children did, not even in the highest Victorian prude period.
Yeah.
Men went to church
weren't
less.
that prudish, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, you know, they didn't. Adam and they just didn't, mate.
No, but like, the Victorians were famously like that. You can, like, you know, we use the term Victorian to mean prudish now, but actually, like, the Victorians were significantly less prudish than like people were in the 1920s. Let's say it's
100.
But this is the thing, though. Like,
I agree.
If you go and look at like the Roman Empire, right? Let's say, and you take. I mean, there's two distinct periods where their birth rates were quite low. And you could probably point to them being relatively low spiritual points for them, but both of those times were probably higher in terms of both spirituality and the way in which they viewed themselves than most people in Britain.
What's quite interesting in that time is in the Roman Empire, you had the Christianity, which was sort of codified by the Nicene Creed, so it became like an imperial religion. But who
supported it, William? Who spread Christianity?
Well, it was the Roman state. The Roman state.
No.
He's going to say the women, but
I'm going to say women and slaves, because that's true, actually.
Well, the slaves thing, I have been reading. It was Adrian Goldsworthy actually recommended this. It was called I think it was like Rodney Stark, and he actually does like refute the slave thing. That yes, one aspect it was women, but actually it was more. Rodney Stark.
Yes.
Yeah, but he said.
And who was
hold on.
William, who resisted it longest? It was the Roman military, who resisted it longest because they were into Mithras, not Jesus.
But the thing there is, Andrew, that it wasn't. I think one of the myths is that it was widespread within the slave class. It really wasn't. Christianity, up until Constantine's time, it was predominantly among the Greek population, if it was any group, but also it was still a ridiculous minority. If you look at areas like Nicomedia or Ephesus or Corinth or places where they supposedly had, or Antioch, where they had large presence, they were still minority there.
All in the Eastern Roman Empire, by the way.
Yeah, and also Rome. Even in Rome at that time, it was, we don't, there were certain like merchants, example, like people who were part of like the middle class in Rome, if you were to use that sort of phrase, who had like, they would host like Christian gatherings in their homes. Like, you didn't actually have churches, of course, back then, so it would be in the homes. It wasn't until Constantine, and you end up having like his family and his wider network, who happened to be Christian. I think his mother was Christian beforehand, that actually it sort of start to spread as a normalized thing. But as you're saying, in the Roman Empire, Mithras was popular. Among women in Rome, the cult of Isis was popular. And then you had in the East, you had the cult of Serapis. And so I think what's quite interesting is at that time, even during, and Christianity didn't become the state religion of the Roman Empire, I think, until Theodosius the Great. So this was quite some time later, in the century, in the 4th century. You actually had at this point, these very like particular cults, like Isis and Serapis and Mithras, who were, I guess you could say, could have been the imperial cults. But I mean, I think the reason why Christianity won out was because, probably because of Constantine, if I'm absolutely honest, and his imperial family.
Hang on, William, Isis and the other one you mentioned were female
Serapis.
cults. Serapis. Isis and Serapis were female cults, and Mithras was a male-only cult.
I don't think Serapis was exclusively female.
You might be right about that, mate. But
I know
Isis was 100% female.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And Mithras was 100% male. You couldn't be a woman and be involved with Mithras.
No, well, Mithras was it originated in Persia. It originated in the East. It was very popular with
Yes.
in the Persian military, in the Sassanid court. It was popular within Greeks, and it became very popular with, of course, you said, in the Roman military. I think Rodney Stark, actually, in this book I got, he stated in the 4th century, they say 80% of the Roman legionnaires and military actually followed quite strictly the cult of Mithras, for example.
Legionaries, yes. And we have found things for Mithras all over Britain from legionary places, including along Hadrian's Wall, etc.
And temples under London and stuff like that, yeah.
Absolutely, Alan. But it was a male-only thing, which meant it had a limited appeal. And I don't know, I guess all of us these days realize that a lot of social stuff is controlled by bloody women. It just is.
I mean, I was just, because I mean, I know like a lot of Roman women were into Christianity because they believed it would control the promiscuity that a lot of Roman elites used to do. Because I know, like, for example, Julius Caesar, like famously, he had like 3 wives. I think his second wife he divorced because she was cheating on him, but he was known for sleeping with loads of other women with his when he was married. And a lot of Roman women, they took up to Christianity because they saw it as a means of controlling their husband's sexual habits. But I can't remember how long ago I read that, but it makes sense.
Well, the problem with Christianity back then is that it was dominated predominantly by the various bishops, you could say. It was dominated by Greeks. It was dominated by North African types, Phoenicians. And then when Richard is right. Theodosius the Great was the one that made Christianity the religion of the Roman Empire.
I will just say I am an enormous fan of Julian the Apostate. I think it's such a pity he was killed in battle so young, because he might have switched things around.
If I'm absolutely honest, I think even on his death, I mean, I don't think he could have reversed what had happened, because unfortunately for him, I guess you could say, Julian, Constantine formulated the Nicene Creed, where he brought all the churches of like Antioch, Rome, and everywhere else, and agreed a set of dogma and unity, which turned Christianity just from like various collection of churches into an actual imperial institution.
I tell you what, William, I'm an agnostic, and I have come down a long way from my atheist days. But I have many Christian friends, I do, and I'm not at all anti-Christian these days. And being anti-Christian in 2025 is pretty insane. But you know what? I'm never actually going to believe in that stuff. I'm just not.
I mean, I will say, like, I mean, I'm not too knowledgeable about this, but I've also thought the Constantine was great, but that's because of that, that famous dream he has right before the Battle of Milvian Bridge. In hoc signo vices, in this sign you shall conquer.
Although, of course, Mitch, he never actually became a Christian until on his deathbed, supposedly, according to bishops. But
yeah.
I know. I'm trying to think which country was. I don't know if it was Anglo-Saxon. I know that the Vikings were known for this, where they would often hedge their bets between their native paganism versus.
The Frank. It was the Franks right before they converted. The Franks and the the Franks were the ones that conflated Christ and Thor. They used to interchange the both. They thought that both were the same, or they were brothers or something. I don't know, something like that.
And let's not forget that Alfred the Great absolutely claimed descent from Wotan. So
yeah.
And Alfred the Great was a great Christian king, but he still claimed it.
I need to shoot, so
I'm going to have to head off now because my dog is at the
door. Wait, Almond, first, anything you want to plug, mate?
No, nothing from me.
All right, mate, go on, and thank you very much for joining us.
Soon.
William, can you please, just before you go, plug your art stream?
Yeah, so the 16th of December, we've got an art stream at 9:00 UK time on my channel. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create the link shortly.
British artists, by the way, guys. British artists.
It's top 3 British. It was top 5, but I think top 3 might be better, because it were otherwise it may be a bit too long and we won't be able to get through everyone. But top 3, and we got a good lineup. Duke's on there, and so there's a few other people that notable. Hopefully John D, but we'll see.
I want to get John D on that one if he'll join, but I wasn't able to speak to him this week because he didn't do a hangout on X. But hopefully, be good.
That'd be good. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon.
Thanks for coming on, William. I just muted Mitch, I know you've got something you need to plug for tomorrow, which I am very much looking forward to.
Yeah, Absolute Majesty is doing a stream with me. I don't know if Rupert's going to be there for certain, but no, he did say last week he was going to be interested. He was
I
interested.
think he is. I think he is.
Yeah, and I think and I believe like Magnus Furious will be there as well. Yeah, we're talking about because it's a part of a trilogy about the three great unifiers of Japan. First, tomorrow night is going to be about Oda Nobunaga, and I'll be in my element on that one because he's probably one of my favorite figures of all time to study. I would say very underrated guy because everyone thinks about Napoleon things, but the problem with Napoleon was he never knew when to quit. Whereas, and then you got Alexander the Great, who it was unfortunate that he died young. Then you got Julius Caesar, who died in a similar way to Oda Nobunaga, but Julius Caesar, in a way, he was too magnanimous. That's what you could put in a lot of great traits towards Oda Nobunaga from like a European perspective. I suppose I don't know how best to explain it within that. But...
Yeah, and this is gonna be the part one of I think a 3-part series from Apostolic Majesty with his guests, and he's going to be looking at Japan, which is a very interesting subject. So yeah, I'm going to definitely be watching that same time as this stream started tomorrow. We've got 3 super chats. Mitch, please hang around because I say we'll always deal with these towards the end, and then all my guests piss off. So anyway, first one is from Rud 3 Trees for Jesus, $30. Thank you, Rud 3 Trees. That's most generous of you. He says, AA's doomerism is starting to irk me. I hope his ex-post about why remigration isn't going to work are wrong. Hard to see how things can change. Then I guess they said that before the Soviet Union and the Berlin Wall fell. Sorry if you speak about this. Do you think another government will reverse the jury decision? 800 years, right? Then an African appears. All right, Mitch, what do you think about Road 3 Trees? Extremely generous, $30
super chat.
Yeah, it's actually $50. I beg your pardon. Anyway,
yeah. So I mean, AI being a doomer. I mean, as I said earlier, he's a disappointed Blair. Right? He just wants to go back to 2000 when we were ruled by Tony Blair, who was evil but very competent. And well, as regarding the whole Jew stuff, I mean, technically, when you think about it, it goes back to Ethelred and Reddy. So you're talking over 1,000 years we've had that as a thing in Jewry. And yeah, I mean, it's like
I mean, he's also Mitch. AI, to be fair, is also a bit self-interested, even that given that his father is Iranian. So
yeah, and it's just one of the things where he's basically just a brain version of Richard Spencer for me. Says how massive contrarian he is.
Well, I hate Richard Spencer more than I hate AA, but yeah, okay.
Well, I'd just say that with AA, it's a matter of, well, right, so you have him just outwardly being a contrarian. I mean, what I feel like, you can tell a lot about a person by what they found most non-negotiable. Well, with AA, it just seems to be, well, to be seen as credible, you must be willing to criticize as well. That's his most non-negotiable point. And I'm like, okay, that's not the most burning issue of the day, though. It's literally the demographics.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm perfectly willing to criticize Israel. I'm no friend of Israel, but are they the biggest problem in the world? If you're not American, maybe not, actually, but
Yeah, it's just, it's one of the things where you go, look, I mean, that's what he finds most non-negotiable. That's a hill he's always willing to die on. Is, well, I will only believe a political figure is actually credible and actually worth listening to if they're criticizing it as well. So, for example, he doesn't like Rupert Lowe because Rupert Lowe doesn't criticize it as well. So, in fact, I don't think the subject's ever come up for him. So
I agree with Woodpit 420 about that one, by the way. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, I think like the last time AA really argued about something, and I feel he truly did believe about was the whole thing about the tariffs, about Trump shooting himself in the foot with government stuff. Because the thing was, Trump thought thinks you can get all the industry back in a single term. I was like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, you oversupply trials and whatnot. Like, the logistics alone will take decades.
It takes at least a decade to do that kind of stuff. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, like all I would say is Trump. The best he can do is set the ground running for someone like JD Vance, and then further beyond to capitalize on it. It's like Philip. It's like I was listening to History Bro and Sargon talking about Alexander the Great earlier, and they mentioned how Alexander the Great, yeah, he was a great guy, but he would never been able to do much without his father, literally creating a damn good army.
Yeah, Philip created the instrument that Alexander used. Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah. So I think that's what Trump should do. He should set the ground running. I mean, I think the best thing he should concentrate on really is just, bringing down inflation, deporting tens of millions of illegal migrants. And I don't know what else. I mean,
and invading Venezuela, apparently, but okay.
Well, I gotta be honest, if I was an American, I could see the point in that, because I'm thinking to myself, well, the Saudis are starting to get more unreliable. They're starting to hedge their bets between Russia
and
versus
Venezuela has enormous reserves of oil. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't blame, and you're also facts. I mean, it's right in America's backyard as well, so I can see why the Americans are a bit more itchy about it. Whereas, as I said, I wouldn't complain too much about them taking on Venezuela as well, because it's just, what argument is there for Maduro's government? At least with
well, listen, I don't give a shit who runs Venezuela, basically.
Well,
I really don't care.
It's like,
if the Americans want to take it over as a colony, go for it, America. I don't.
Well, it's like I saw Americans complaining about the billions of dollars that Trump gave Milley as a bailout to help him with his election, and I'm like, well, why wouldn't he? That Milley's an American ally. He's pro-America. Like, that's part of the Americans having their own empire, is that you're going to have to reward your allies in order for them to stay in power. That's just part of the. We do that all the we used to do it all the time.
But don't forget, Mitch. They're killing drug runners. The evil bastards. They're killing drug runners. Like, don't worry about your daughter who might end up on those drugs. Worry about the people in the boats.
Yeah, the thing is, that's pretty small fish as well compared to the absolute shed loads that they get from Mexico. Like, I don't know why, and so you've got the president of Mexico, I forget her name, Sheinbaum, really very Mexican name, that, and yes, she's a right piece of work. I mean, for us,
and Mexico is a state that is basically run by drug cartels anyway. But
yeah,
all right.
Yeah, it's like Scheinbaum's predecessor, a guy called AMLO. I can't remember what AMLO stood for, but basically, it was that Mexican version of Jeremy Corbyn. He's going. Well, we defeat the cartels with hugs, not bullets, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, look, like I said, Mitch, I don't care about any of this shit in Venezuela. I don't care about Venezuela, frankly. Not a British interest.
Not British interest. I would just say, look, I don't mind if America were to go to war with Venezuela. In my book, it's justifiable.
I very much doubt if the Venezuelan people, like the ordinary people in Venezuela, would end up much worse, to be honest. But whatever.
Well, if you saw that video of literally those fat Venezuelan women trying to do military drills, like, put it this way,
the US Marines will be scared. But on the other hand, the US Marines have their own fat black women, so.
I would say this, right? One thing America prides himself on is their superior logistics. I think they can build up a McDonald's within 24 hours of landing, and I'm like,
well, there you go.
Yeah, I will say, I was reading because about that book I was referencing back on Wednesday night stream, Hirohito's War by Francis Pike. Let's just say, put it this way: people say, "Oh, America was built by X group," and it's like, no, the Scots Irish probably are really do punch above their weight. I mean, all the logistical stuff in the Pacific wouldn't have been possible.
Well, they moved them into Indian territory in the 18th century because they were used to fighting and were the best guys for that part of the world. That's why they are where they are. But
yeah,
sure.
I would just say the Scots Irish are like there's a book about the commentary by T.R. Fehrenbach, which I would recommend people to read. And like there's this one quote that doesn't skip my head where it goes, "The Scots Irish are the vanguard of American civilization." And I'm like,
but also bear in mind when you say Scots Irish, it's not what it sounds like. The Scots Irish were actually the Scottish settlers in Ireland who ended up fighting the Irish. That's what the Scots Irish really.
Yeah, but you got to factor American law is what they call jus soli, which is all about, if you're born on a land, you're the same as the people who've lived on that land for like generations.
Yeah.
It's the big which we used to have as well up until a lot of manufacture. Unfortunately, we didn't have it in time to prevent Kemi Badenoch from having British citizenship as an anchor baby.
The Nigerian leader of the so-called, in air quotes, Conservative Party. All right. Right, a couple of others. Thank you once again to Rod Three Trees. $50 is an enormously generous sum for this channel. Thanks, mate. Rong Tao Wu says, I need to get some rest today. Be watching this on the return. Hope you guys are all well. Well, Rong Tao Wu, who has supported this channel before, thank you very much, mate, and thank you for your $3. We also got $5 from Garen, who is a very regular supporter of this channel and just said hello. Garen, thanks very much, mate. Your support is much appreciated. So, that was our super chats. Thanks, guys. They are much appreciated, and they simply go back into paying for the channel, really. Like I have to pay, I think it's $89 a month for using StreamYard's Unlimited and whatever it is for X and all the rest of it. And that money simply goes towards paying for that. So thank you very much, guys. Most welcome. Mitch, any final points?
No, nothing I can think of now. I think I can't think of anything.
All right, guys, do please go and watch Apostolic Majesty stream this time tomorrow. Mitch is a guest. I think Rupert August is a guest, who's another member of my Discord, who I wish would come on my streams more often. And also Marcus, who's also a member of my Discord, who I wish would come on my streams more often. But I think both of those guys are going to be, all of those guys are going to be guests with Apostolic Majesty, looking at Japan. And that's an interesting subject that I will definitely be watching. Go all, guys. And in the meantime, never let the bastards grind you down.